Tottenham till I die, Spurs Diehards. Tottenham till I die. Tottenham till I die. Tottenham till I die. Spurs Diehards. Tottenham till I die.
Good evening to everybody everywhere. This is Spurs Diehards Tottenham till I die. And look at us, the most potent front three we've had since Messi, Suarez and Neymar. Joining me this evening, I have the regular cohorts with me. I have Mr. Steve Silver. How are you doing, sir?
I'm well, man. So am I Messi, Suarez, or Neymar? Just to clarify, right?
A little bit of all of them just rolled into one little American package for us.
Goddamn, I'm one hell of a player, aren't I?
Right.
No, I'm doing well, and I just want to send a happy 4th of July to all those American Spurs fans that are tuning in tonight. I hope you guys enjoy your evening. May the fireworks and all the adult spirits flow, and hopefully you guys have a safe night tonight.
Well, I tell you what, we've got some fireworks tonight. Let me tell you. I'm trying to make it exciting, because honestly, in the world of Tottenham Hotspur, there's actually really not that much going on, but we'll delve into it as best we can. I've got my usual co-host with me. Adrian, how are you doing this evening, sir?
I'm fine, thank you. Again, I'll reiterate what you both have said. Happy 4th of July to all the American viewers. And for those that watch us on playback later, obviously, I know things are a bit quiet on the Spurs front at the moment, but I'm sure we'll find things to get into until like this transfer market starts to get its arse into gear, basically, and we hear about new signings and such. So with that, back to you, Drew.
Yeah, well, as I say, we've got a couple of things to go over today. It's not exactly been, there's not been a huge amount of news hot off the press, but we will get into a couple of bits. I just want to welcome in Graham, Spurs GCTV. Good evening, sir. Good to see you. And we've got Milton the Breaker in here as well, saying happy 4th of July. Love the intro music. Bloody pumps me up. Hope all is well. And I hope all is well with you, Milton. We'll get into this. I mean, obviously, the talking points really so far have been that there aren't many talking points. The players that obviously we've got in, we have Koto Takai, I think it's Ollie Boast. Vuskovic has finally landed in the building. Tell's been confirmed, obviously, through Bayern. And I think Danzo's been confirmed as well. So arguably, that's actually more business, or as much business as, the other teams that have done the most business. But because it's not 70, 80, 90 million pound players, there's obviously a feeling that we're not really moving and therefore we're going backwards. So I think part of it for me is that, in the background, you always want to be building on your youngsters, on the academy, things like that. So I've got no problem with the likes of, obviously, Takai, Boast coming in. And the rumour is that Takai is going to be coming in and at least being part of the first team. Vuskovic, obviously, we've got high hopes about this kid. He's been, I would say, pulling up trees, but I mean, he's been doing as well as you could expect a 17, 18-year-old to do, in a foreign country. So we've obviously got very high hopes for him. Tell my feelings on him. He obviously came to us with little to no football in his legs. He'd had a good season the season before, but the first 6 to 8 months of this season, he played very little football. So he came to us when arguably we needed somebody that had been there and done it. He very much hadn't been there and done it. And, I think, there was a certain percentage of the Spurs fan base that I think maybe expected a little bit too much from an 18, 19-year-old. But that's 100%. Just my opinion. And, people are obviously welcome to say that I'm talking absolute hogwash. But yeah, we'll start with this. So is it typically Tottenham or is it to be expected? So did we think that we would make many moves at the moment or in this point in time, considering that Frank needs to assess the squad he's inheriting? We've obviously got, question marks over some players, but I think there is we can say that the club or the squad was in turmoil last year in terms of injuries. So really, I think there's almost a need to see whether a couple of these players are really over their injuries still or whether there's question marks over them. The back line didn't play as many games as we would have hoped together last year. So the players have still got to come back from pre-season. I believe some of them come back tomorrow and start their preliminary training and fitness and things like that. So, Adrian, we'll kind of get your viewpoint, and then I'm really interested to see what Steve thinks. I mean, are you sitting there sort of laid back, just expecting this, or are you losing your mind that we haven't signed the likes of an Eze, a Kudos, and then Mbumo? So, what's your thoughts at the moment?
Kudos is completed.
I'm quite patient. I mean,
we'll come to that, Steve.
with the players you mentioned earlier, I mean, I think most of them were got in before the 1st of July, which was the beginning or the end of the old FFP, financial fair play, profit sustaining rules year. And then to think that we were now going to go bang straight into this next year with players, I didn't think that was going to happen. I think actually, if I'm proved right, I said it would be in the second week because the players, like you say, they all come back tomorrow, apart from Gray, who may come back or may not. That's optional because he was away with a successful England under-20 side that won 2 back-to-back, and we beat Germany, which is always great to beat Germany. The Germans, right? They bummed their fish shop, you know what I mean? So so Gray, and I think even Odebert and Tull can come back later if they want to. Mm-hmm. But Frank will know enough about those players. He wanted Gray at Spurs, didn't he? He also wanted Johnson as well, didn't he? So at Brentford, so when he was at Brentford, so he knows about these players. So I am expecting something to happen. I know in Spurs, the first signing next week will be Kyle Walker-Peters because he's on a free, and we need him to just give us an extra place in the Champions League squad from 14 to 15 foreign players, still 2 down. Right, for next season, it won't shorten the plan, and so I'm expecting something to happen next week because we've only got 15 days before we play Reading away.
Yeah, David Clark, good to see you. Good to see you. Always a loyal listener of the show. Says this list sounds more like a menu than a list of players, and he also says I'm sick of seeing kids being purchased. If we come a Premier League academy, then I will give it best and start following my local semi-pro club. Steve, what are your thoughts? You came in there. You said Kudus is done. That's hot off the press, is it? That's hot off.
Yeah. So I heard it this morning from my agent friend who said that deal has been completed between the two clubs, and it was later backed up by Ali Gold, who said that Tottenham are currently in negotiations with the actual player. Obviously Kudus is a Ghanaian international. I think he had 38 games last year for West Ham. I think it was 3 goals, 2 assists. So he didn't exactly light the score sheet on fire last year. Yeah. But I'm assuming that is going to get announced on Monday. But it's still a welcome addition on the right side. And for all those that know, Kudus can play all across the entire front three. So that is from what I'm hearing, that deal is done between West Ham and Tottenham, and ironically, it'll be the first deal that both clubs have made in 15 years. So that I found that kind of interesting. But to answer your question though, is this typical Tottenham? Yeah, it is kind of typical Tottenham. They didn't take advantage of the first window that opened up, while other clubs around England utilized that time, and they had I guess you can say it was a directive to wait until after the fiscal year had come and gone before they start making the bulk of their summer moves. Especially experienced players that are probably going to be in that 60-pound plus price bracket, so it hits their new FFP instead of on the previous. So for me, that was my entire expectation. I didn't think that we were going to get anything, I guess you can say, of substance, or as you said, Drew, earlier, the fireworks. We weren't going to see that until after July 1st, which is very appropriate, considering the day today is. But it is what it is. This is how Tottenham does business, and I understand that it's frustrating, but it is what it is, right? But more to that, though, last year, like I fully expect this summer window to be exactly what happened last summer, where you get in one, possibly two, experienced players through the door that can jump into the starting 11, but for the most part, your window is very much going to be centered around the youth. And sure enough, true to form, that's exactly what's happened. With the exception of Kevin Danso, but for the most part, you look at across the board, you're looking at players that are under the age of 22. And to me, that's exactly what I expected. I will say that I do believe that Thomas Frank has already done his evaluations on his players, just considering the bulk of players have already been at Hotspur Way for a few weeks already. So I would probably assume that he's already had conversations with the certain players that are there. I'm sure there still are some players coming back from holiday, but for the most part, everything that's transpired so far, for me at least, has completely been expected.
So you're saying you heard from your agent friend saying that obviously Kudus, you think he thinks the Kudus, or he's heard that the Kudus deal's done. There was contradicting reports. Ali Gold's confirmed that as well. And when did he do? Did we know when did he do that? Earlier today, was it?
Let me pull it up.
Because I don't know. I just think there was, it's obviously until, and I think it's probably Adrian brought it up earlier. I think it was in one of the banners. We've been stung before with the likes of your Williams, where we all thought that it was done, and now we're sort of until it's one of those until they hold up the shirt, you never quite know. Yeah.
8 o'clock.
Okay.
But yeah, that's and it was and what Ali Gold is reporting is that is the same thing I heard, that the deal is done between the teams and they're currently negotiating with the player.
Fair play. Adrian, what are your thoughts on that? Because I was going to go down the route of us losing being worried that we might lose all of our targets. But I mean, if this is the case, I mean, are you happy that Kudus is coming through the door? Do you think it's the sort of player that would help to give Johnson a kick up the arse and kind of kick him on?
He's a good player. He improves us in one way. He had more take-ons than any winger, I think, in the Premier League last season. But he also gave the ball away more times as well. He also lost it. That's the risk you got when you're a winger, aren't you? Right. My main concern with Kudus is not his quality, and he is versatile. So he can play as a number 9 as well. So that is useful. That is really useful. Yeah. I've always banged on podcasts for seasons that if we got a front three, I don't want pretty players up there, skillful players, I wouldn't want even 3 Ginolas up there or 3 Gascoignes playing on the front if he could, if you're not scoring goals. Right. Now, I don't know with Kudus. I know he didn't have the greatest scoring season last season. Half the West Ham fan base want rid of him anyway, and I think he's good. Well, he is a good player. There's no two days about that. And I don't know how he was played last year at West Ham and whether, if we're really in for him, Frank can get a better tune out of him. But if we've got wingers, they have to score goals. It's simple. If you just create, if you look at the league, this season was when Liverpool won it. They won it with 86 goals, which is low compared to previous years. We scored 86 and finished second, I think, in the year we finished second at Chelsea. So we've got to score 86 goals. Now, you would hope that a majority of those goals would come from your front three, right? If we're I mean, we're not yet ready to challenge for the league title. We know that. We're not yet in the Champions League. But, you know, you want to see it. And we did score quite a few goals last year and conceded a lot. For all the raving about how good our defence is and how many good defenders we've got, we did concede a lot of goals, right?
Right.
So,
well, to be fair, it wasn't those defenders playing, was it? As good as they are, they were watching the makeshift back line concede. Although there is the argument that when the good ones played, they conceded as well. So I don't know.
Yeah, my only concern is,
carry on.
mind you, Aaron Lennon wasn't exactly renowned for scoring lots of goals either.
Right. Was his loss of possession, was that also maybe a consequence of? I mean, the team, you know, West Ham weren't exactly firing on all cylinders last year, were they? I mean, I can't remember the last time West Ham did fire a cylinder, but like, you know, to be fair, was his, you know, his giving away the ball, was that sort of a consequence maybe of, you know, because of the disjointedness of West Ham, you think? Because I think the season before,
it's got to be a part
he actually
of it.
wasn't too bad, right?
Yeah, I mean, if your team's playing crap, like we played crap in the league last year, it's got to be a part of it. So, I mean, he did well in his first season with them. Everyone was raving about him. Everyone was saying, I would love Kudus and we'd love, you know, the West Ham forward line instead of our forward line. You know, we'd love Jared Bowen, blah, 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 and all that, you know. But, yeah, I mean, I think Frank will get a better tune out of him. He's coming to a better squad. Right, so if we don't see an improvement in his goal scoring ratio, then something wrong with that. And Frank's front three, they do not. I mean, what I'll probably come into his systems later. Yeah, back to you, Drew. I'll talk about that later.
Just give a big shout out to a couple more people in the chat. We had just a harmless potato. Spud just came in, said good evening all. Big up Steve, Adrian and Drew. Big up to you, Spud. Good to see you. Who else we got? Nita, obviously also RIP Diego Jota and Andre Silva. I mean, obviously, you know, enough has been said about that over the last couple of days or since it happened. And you know, obviously, our thoughts go out to all the Liverpool supporters and obviously his family that have been affected by it. So, yeah, very, very much in our hearts, Nita. So, thank you very much for that. Graham says he can't see where to become a member. And I think if you go to Spurs Diehards TTID, if you go to the main page, there should be a membership tab, and you should be able to click on. Mine says renew because I'm already a member, but there should be a little tab that says that you can become a member. So I hope you find it. If you have any more issues,
in the bottom right corner, and for the 70 of you that are watching us on various platforms, which is good at present. If you go in the bottom right corner, we can't see it because we're live. You'll see the YouTube subscribe button, right? If you click on that, it'll take you to the page. If it doesn't automatically come up and ask you whether you want to become a member, you should be able to find a member. If not, me and Drew will have to go through the settings because I thought I had it set up right.
Uh-oh. All right. Well, we'll say, but have a look, Graham, and it's much appreciated that you would even consider becoming a member. So thank you very, very much. David Clark says West Ham owners are rubbing their hands in glee because they know Kudus is only worth about 35 to 40 million, but we will have to pay 60. Let me ask you this, guys, because I've always had a sneaking suspicion that there is a Levy tax. I think that he is such a hard person to work with. I think he's such a pain in the arse chairman that other chairmen get fed up with him pretty quickly. And I think he's somewhat blackballed himself across Europe and maybe in the Premier League. And there are transfers that have happened in the past to other teams that have got players. And I think to myself, how on earth have they managed to pick up that player for that price? And if it was Tottenham, we'd have to pay anywhere from 5 to 15, maybe even some instances, 20 million more. And I just think it's down to he's painted himself into a corner in some instances, and he's just become the hardest chairman to do any business with. And I think Sean Butler probably says it best on Spurs Talk Show. Big up, Sean. That, you know, he's a zero-sum game chairman where he has to win and there has to be a loser. And I mean, is that just kind of a wild conspiracy, or is there anything to that? Because I think, you know, if Kudus was going to, you know, if let's just turn around a week from now, he ends up going to Liverpool, I wouldn't be surprised if the deal was for 35 to 40, maybe 45 plus 5 or something like that. And yet I've got a feeling that he's going to come, you know, if he does come to us, it will be in the region of 60 plus 5 or 65 plus 5. I mean, is there anything to it, or am I a lunatic?
He's not. Go on, Steve.
I was going to say, like, I've always believed in the English tax, right? When it comes to player sales inside that country, just because I think a lot of teams potentially overvalue they overvalue the actual market value of what their players are. But this is actually kind of a peculiar negotiation, because number one, I would be curious to know if Levy was even involved in this negotiation, because to me it sounded like Vinay is the guy that's leading the football operations, and I wonder if Levy was even involved. That's the first thing. But also, from what my understanding, Tottenham was the only team that actually formally made a bid on Kudus. There was no other team negotiating with Kudus, right? So from that standpoint, I was like, well, you know, I heard conflicting reports that West Ham had rejected a bid of about £50 million, but that's, you know, for me, that's actually the right valuation. And Tottenham can't be in a position where they're negotiating from a place of desperation. You know, they can't have that, you know, they hold all the leverage in this as well too, because West Ham is trying to rid themselves on their wage sheet because they want to rebuild, right? So they can't necessarily put the screws to Tottenham and overvaluate Mohamed Kudus, right? And Spurs have to be able to walk away from the negotiation table, at least to send the message that they're not going to get played. And from everything that I'm reading into it, it sounds like it's one thing if you're in a bidding war with 3 other teams, but that wasn't the case with this one, right? So I don't know. For me, I don't.
Well, I don't know, Steve, because I don't
necessarily like I don't know exactly what the actual figure is. I'm sure that will come out over the next 48 hours, but I can't imagine that it's 60 plus 5 or 60 plus 10. Like, if anything, it's like either 50 plus 5 or 55 plus 5. That's all I'm saying.
No, fair play. And if this all turns out to be the case and it all goes through like that, then I will take my hat off to you and say you are the newest ITK on the block. But I mean, I've heard. I think it was from Ben Jacobs. I think it was the other day, or somebody else, that basically said there are 5 or 6 teams circling and potentially kind of waiting for Spurs to somewhat do the legwork, find out what the price is, so that they can come in kind of on the back end and be like, all right, then, well, let's do this. And by the way, if you don't want to work with Daniel Levy, you know, here's another couple of extra million to sweeten the deal. So I don't know.
And that's the reason why I asked that question up front, right? Was Levy a part of these negotiations, or was it Vinny and Johan Lang and in that crew actually leading the negotiations with Levy not even being a part of it, right? Because that actually plays a significant role into this. But that being said, it's like there's no other teams except for Tottenham that are actually in with Kudus, and actually the team that actually is actually negotiating from a point of desperation is actually West Ham, because they want to rid their team of those wages, right? So there is no other team that has formally made a bid yet. And so from that standpoint, it's Tottenham's game to lose, and apparently they got it done. I'd be curious to see what that number is, though.
I mean, I don't believe Kudus on last season's form was a £60 million player.
I agree.
Right? So to me, he's a 55 million pound player. That's with a £5 million add-on. But that's not the situation we find ourselves in. And also, West Ham are not in the best situation. They have to sell for FFP reasons.
Correct.
So Levy can play a bit of a hard game with this. And deals aren't done that quickly. I won't have it. I mean, like, you get a deal done on Denso or something like that when there's no interest in the player really wants to come, and you can do a deal like that pretty quickly. But when you're looking for quality players, these deals do not happen that quickly. If you take Kuna, who went to Man United, they activated his release clause on the 1st of June, right? Now, obviously, there's got to have been conversations before that with the club, with Wolves, with the player, with the agents. Now, how many times that went to and fro, we don't know. We don't know how many days it was, right? So we don't know how many days it was before the 1st of June when they activated the release clause. We do know they signed him on the 12th, which was 12 days later. So these deals are not done that quickly. They may appear to be done quickly if a lot of the groundwork's done beforehand and took days to do, but they're not done quickly, especially now. Not with merchant, and you've got a merchandising thing, which is a separate contract, it's not the same as the player's contract. So they are complex. Not to say, we should have our targets and we shouldn't be hearing something concrete about players are in, which we haven't heard. All you've had is all that bollocks in the social media, and that's all it is. It's just utter rubbish. We could be signing, we should be signing. We have made big steps to sign this player. Spurs are interested in this player. I mean, it's just total crap, because the media, and even some of the media I used to respect, is coming out with stories because they all then get involved in a race to compete to put a story out to fill column inches, and there's not much news out there. Right. So it's all like they invent stuff, they fabricate so much stuff. And us, we've got to try and do a show and and I love bringing facts to people. People know that I'm very fact-based, right? But I come for more facts around the club and things like that than go through like facts that Sean Butler will come through on players and other things like that. I'm an old school eye test merchant, basically. Before, I will use facts and we'll go through and use them, but they're not my first port of call. You know what I mean? They're not.
Yeah, and again, I completely agree with you, Adrian, because West Ham is actually the team, negotiating from a spot of desperation because they have to get rid of the player. From a Tottenham standpoint, again, they were the only team that actually made a formal bid, and it's like, if another team actually had put in a bid and it got rejected, then you can honestly say that there's multiple teams that were interested. But let's actually talk about the type of player that Mohamed Kudus is. Is he an upper echelon Premier League winger? No, he's not. Is he a solid squad player that that can push Brendan Johnson at that position 100%? And that's exactly what they needed at this time, because I don't know how you guys feel, but I think Brendan Johnson's development is stalled, and I think he's gotten far too comfortable with this first team because there really was no competition for him. And now there's going to be a situation where he's going to have to actually earn his minutes. That's exactly what this, as far as I'm concerned, what this attacking three needed.
I think it's a bit unfair to say that. I think it's a bit unfair to say that it's stalled, being as his numbers have clearly been better this year from the year before. But if I'm fully prepared to accept that under the tactics that he was asked to play, that maybe he has become more one-dimensional than we'd like him to become. But you would like to think, and you would like to hope, and I've also been fed this line that Thomas Frank is the coach's man's coach, and he's gonna, take all these 5, 6, 7 out of 10s and make them 8s, 9s, and 10 out of 10s. So you've got to hope that there is room for Johnson to improve.
Well, when I say it's stalled, is number one, you hammered on the first point, is that he has kind of developed into a one-dimensional player, but it's also a lack of consistency. There's nothing consistent about Brendan Johnson's game from a touch standpoint, being able to deliver a ball into the box, being able to skin his guy around the corner to the end line. He just doesn't possess those type of skills. He is literally just that dude that floats to the floats to the near post and will bang in a goal against Ipswich or Southampton. But when you need him to actually play a solid game against Liverpool, City, Chelsea, he just disappears.
Steve,
he scored against City, and just for the record, he scored against City.
Well, he scored against United.
Steve, on Kudus, right? I mean, could we? That we there aren't swap deals. People all suggest they don't happen, but we could offer West Ham Basuma because Potter was his manager at Brighton.
Good. I heard that Basuma's is for sure is sure going to go out the door. And I heard the name today. As a matter of fact, I heard the name of I don't know if you guys are familiar with this guy, but it is Lucien Agume from Sevilla, the 23-year-old French international who is only worth about 20 million. His market value is right around 20 million. That's the guy that Tottenham are circling because, again, it's under the radar signings that necessarily aren't attracting the bigger names at a price that actually makes perfect sense, and plus it fills a much needed role, a much needed position at the 6.
Do you think? Let me ask you this. Oh, sorry, go on. You don't?
No, I don't think.
Adrian?
Frank plays with a narrow midfield pivot rather than a 6, and we know like every fan's perception of a 6. Like he's got to be some superhuman, perfect player who can progress play, break up play, find killer passes, and score the odd goal. I mean, like,
well, it depends, right?
It's Roy of the Rovers, isn't it?
Yeah,
well, it depends on the formation that he runs in, right? I mean, he mostly plays out of 2 formations. 3 in the back, or he plays a 4-3-3. I mean, those are the two. Yeah. Those are the two.
Well, it is a 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1. It's very similar. You don't see that on the pitch throughout the game, do you?
Right.
But I am a big fan of the midfield pivot. I mean,
I am too.
With the squad we got when we won 2-0 away at Brentford, stunk out the place at West Ham, and then we won the 3 European games away and lifted the trophy, and we are European champions. Just like to remind everyone of that. That's yeah. And like, so I'm a fan of the midfield pivot. I am. I like it. I'm not too bothered about a so-called number 6 and people's definition of a 6. I like a midfield pivot.
I agree.
And like, I want to see Bentancur signed up again, and then we can blood. Bergveld can play alongside him. Gray can be blooded in beside him. Gray can play there. Take my word for it. He can play there. Right?
Yeah. And especially when Kulusevski comes back as well too. So
and then you might even see. I mean, fans complain about Kulu like, oh, he's not a right winger or not. Yeah, but where Kulu moves into the closed space on the angle of the penalty area, that's where Frank plays his front three. They play narrower. They might start out wide, but they'll play narrower. So you'll have your centre forward on the penalty spot, and you might have your wide players just on the edges of the penalty area on the corners, right? That suits Kulu, because the amount of time Kulu cuts into that close space and shoots, and sometimes he'll always score one in the far corner or whatever. He's a quality footballer, in my opinion. I hope the jury's out on him as well, like it is in all players. And the fan base is Marmite on every player in the squad as well. So, yeah, I mean, so I think we could see Kulu still playing on the right in games. He's we know he's very useful in away games. I can see him playing as a 10, but Maddison and Johnson, and I think Johnson, if Johnson, right, had a lot more work rate last season, we didn't have a crap season. Say he did, it was the same as this season, scored the goals, but we finished 5th or 6th. I don't think there'd be much criticism of Johnson. Could say, oh, well, we finished 5th or 6th, he scores goals. But because we were such rubbish in the league, we were such crap, fans have used the shotgun effect to like have a pop at every player in the squad. And therefore, like, he's criticised for his lack of work rate. I believe he can do it. And I think under Frank, Frank wanted him at Brentford. I mean, I believe Johnson can put in the work rate. He could be switched to be for a 2 if we went 3-5-2 or whatever to play as an inside forward. So I think you can get more. I still think he's got. And I've warmed him. I didn't want him at the club, but I've warmed to Brennan Johnson. He's a good finisher, not attacking.
Well, that's the interesting. That's the interesting thing, though, with with Kudus coming in, and with Sonny coming back for another season, right? Where are they going to? Where is Johnson going to be able to find the minutes this upcoming season? That's my only question, right?
Well, I was actually just about to ask you: can they play together in the same team?
Say that
can
again?
you play Kudus and can you play? That's what I was about to ask you. Can you play, being as in my mind, Kudus is more of a winger, like an out-and-out winger, take on your man, get to the byline. I mean, obviously he does have, last year excluded, he does have the ability to finish. I've seen him finish. He's half decent. But is being as Brennan Johnson isn't really a winger, and he's more of an inside forward, and Thomas Frank's been known to, you know, as I say, he's the coach's coach. Apparently he's going to work wonders with these guys. Can you see a scenario, or is there a system where you have Kudus on the wing or floating and you have Johnson as more of an inside forward? Does that work? Or, I mean, is that, I don't know, just throwing it out there. I don't know. This is the thing. Like, you know, there's so much speculation. You've got no idea. Yeah, I've got no idea how we're going to set up. Right.
Right. That's the thing, right? Because if it's going to be like, a system with 2 high with five in the midfield, right? I would just assume that Sonny's probably going to be playing that false 9 inside forward role off of Solanke, and Kudus would probably be on the right. But that being said, what happens if Frank deploys 2 wing backs, right? Pedro Porro and Destiny. right. So well, then you're gonna have to figure out a way to squeeze Kudus in. But that being said, I still do think Johnson. Like, by the way, this is not like me hating on Johnson. I actually like Brendan Johnson as a prospect. The issue for me is I think he's going to see the field. I just don't know if that's going to be in a regular starting role, or if he's going to be relegated back to the cup squads, the cup rotation, that type of thing. It's just like there's so many moving parts right now. But that being said, it's like, okay, well, because Sonny for sure is going to be coming back for another year, and I'm sure that Thomas Frank is going to want to utilize him, right? They're going also going to want to put him in a position where there's very little to no wear and tear, almost like what Arnie Slot did with Mohamed Salah last year, and essentially isolating him up the pitch 1v1 in space. I'm sure that they're going to try to do the same thing with Sonny. But that being said, what happens is if it's a 2 wing back system with Pedro Porro and Destiny Udogie, they're probably gonna run Sonny as that false 9 off of Dominic Solanke, right? So where is Kudus going to find minutes, let alone Brendan Johnson?
Yeah. Well, let's before we go on, because you bring up an interesting point with Sonny, because there was some news that potentially came out today with regards to him. But I firstly want to say thank you to Peter. I always feel like I get your name wrong, Peter. Is it Kahagias? Let me know, because I feel like I'm slightly butchering it. But the memberships have gone out to Ryan Trestane. We've got Rinketic Sport Agenda, Nita, and Just a Harmless Potato, and Spurs GCTV, which is fantastic because Graham says, cheers, Peter. He's just spent 20 minutes trying to find out how to renew his membership. And lo and behold, you've come as the knight in shining armor and put him out of his misery. So thank you very much for that. Brilliant.
Yeah,
brilliant.
Peter's coming hard with the memberships. And by the way, thank you guys for the memberships. Drew and Adrian, you guys are doing a hell of a job.
Yeah, it's absolutely brilliant. And he's giving the Spud the old thumbs up. David Clark again here. Thank you very much for keeping the conversation going in the chat, David. Really appreciate it. And there's Graham says, yeah, cheers, Peter. Just spent 20 minutes trying to set up his membership. So that's brilliant. And Mick Vickers, the level of disrespect BJ gets is shocking. It is. And I don't think, I'm sure, I don't think this is aimed necessarily at any of us particular, because I think I'm a fan of BJ, although I do think he obviously does need work. He has become a little bit one-dimensional, but whether that was as a consequence of this, the tactics or what, we shall find out. One thing I am very, very. I thought I was getting fed up and bored, but I think the more I think about it, I am kind of it's just, just thinking about the same players and kind of, I've still in my head, I'm still questioning whether ultimately this is going to be the right move. And I still think that it was a big, big risk. I'm going to get pelters probably, but I think it was a big risk sacking Ange to put somebody in place that has never done this before. But I'm a broken record, so I'm not going to keep harping on about it. We'll just have to wait and see. But I'm just looking, I'm at the point now, Adrian, where I'm just kind of, I'm I'm fed up with getting myself down about it. So now I'm trying to think positive, and I'm thinking to myself, Frank is going to turn BJ into an absolute world beater. This 24-25 GA or whatever he got this year, eclipsed. He's going to get 35-40 this year. He's going to be an absolute.
If by the way, if he turns Brendan Johnson into Brandon Bemo, that would be absolutely fantastic.
Right.
Well, he's had a lot of experience with young players, Frank. I mean, he's supposed to do the 78 with his squad and all that. I mean, and Langer has had a lot to do with this because Langer, although Frank was at Bromby, Johan Langer, and for those that don't, and Frank were at a Danish club called Dingby together as coaches. So they know each other well. And Frank's also worked with the young Danish players as well, bringing them on. So he's quite experienced and used to working with players at academy level sort of type players and youth players, knows them. So I would expect him to be able to get a better tune out of some of the younger players and see the talent that's in them, see what the good prospects are. He's not been tested in Europe, though, for all the hours he's done. He's never had to, like, Brentford were never in Europe. He's had a bit of goes with preliminary rounds with Bromby in Europe. So that'll be a challenge for him because he's got to manage the squad. He's got to be able to manage the squad. You know, we've got 48 games minimum. That's if we don't progress in the Champions League or both the domestic cups, which I'm expecting us to progress in them anyway. Well, I don't expect us to win the Champions League, but I expect us to get through the 8. You got to be positive going into this. I mean, I'll be going to the game, so like, I want to see. I don't want to go thinking, oh, we're going to get screwed over, right? Still, we get. It's not so much the draw; it's the home games. You should expect to win your home games, right? So, yeah. So we'll see. We'll see if the challenge of these additional games, playing Europe, playing a game every 3 days rather than playing once a game a week, when he's had more time to work with Brentford and players in the squad. That's a big difference. The only time he's ever had to play with a game every 3 days is probably when he's had the domestic cup, and Brentford have never travelled far, and then they've gone out early. So, and then handling injury problems as well when you're playing these games and got a squad every 3 days as well. So it's not like I mean, I think he's a good appointment, having looked at some of his tactics and all that. And naturally, we all wish him well and hope we want to hope he's a huge success, but we'll see. We'll see. I don't think the job will be too much for him. I think it was about the best choice out there that we could get. So, you know, so I'm confident he'll do well. I'm confident he will do well this season.
Yeah. We'll touch on there's a couple of people that mentioned Sonny, Eze, the likes of those names in the chat. So I just want to ask you guys with regards to Sonny, because there was mention that potentially there was news today that he's going to stay for another year. There's also rumours over here, because obviously I live in America, there's rumours that he's going to LAFC. And my initial reaction when I heard LAFC, I understand that they can, as I was talking to Steve backstage, my understanding, or at least I thought, that you're sort of a designated player where you could kind of break your structure to pull somebody in. I thought that was just pertain to wages. And I was sat here thinking to myself, well, there's no way that LAFC could pull off 35-40 million in terms of a transfer fee. Steve corrected me on that and said that they've got deep pockets, and if they wanted to, they could. So let me ask you this, guys. Do we think, are we absolutely for sure? Do we think Sonny's staying? Is he going? Steve, we'll ask you. Do you think he's staying? Do you think he's going? Do you think he should stay? Do you think he should go? And if he does go, where is the most likely destination?
I think the club should do what's best for the club, and if there is a competitive offer out there that is willing to match what the actual true value of Sonny is, that I think you have to do what's right by the club. And if that's a move to LAFC, then it is what it is. But I can understand why Sonny wants to stay, simply because it's a World Cup year. And I'm sure there's implications with the South Korean team as well too. But that being said, when you're as a player, you're taking a look around at the potential options. At least with Tottenham, you're coming off a Europa League trophy, and now you've got the Champions League this year, right? So staying is actually staying for another season actually doesn't look all that bad compared to some of the other targets out there. But when it comes to Major League Soccer, each team have 3 designated player spots, and with those spots, a team can spend whatever the hell they want. Like if somebody wanted to go out there and get Yamin, if they wanted to go out and get Yamin Lamal and pay $125 million to do it, they could, because there's no price discrepancy on how much you can spend for a DP. Currently with LAFC, they already have 3, so they would have to shift one of those guys to a TAM level contract in order to facilitate another DP spot to bring them in. But that being said, LAFC's got deep pockets, and if they wanted to, they could make a competitive offer. But I digress. I just think that with Sonny, I actually personally think that we should probably move on. He's already done exactly what he set out to do, which was win a trophy with Spurs. Okay, mission accomplished. But that being said, if there's an opportunity for him to make, just a ton of money before he goes out, I say go do it. You've already you've done everything you could for this club. But that being said, I don't think it's a bad move if he stays, because I still think Sonny can facilitate a role. And a part of me thinks last season he was playing hurt for the majority of the season, which was the reasoning behind some of his poor performances last season. But I don't know, man. I guess the question I have for you is, if he does come back, do you guys see him as a starter?
I do. I think Frank's had a word with Son, because Son would want to know about his position. Sonny said he wants to stay for the Champions League. And if you're a new manager coming to a club, you want an experienced player like Son in your ranks. You do. He's the best finisher of the club with both feet. He may have lost the afterburners. Didn't look great on the eye last season on the eye test when I watched him play. His numbers were still good.
What's your if you want to integrate this, because David Clark says if Son stays, that tells me what I already know, that being Levy's total lack of ambition for the club. So what's being as we're talking about Sonny? The
lack of ambition, David, will be shown by the end of this transfer window. That'll be the true sign of our ambition. It won't be whether Son stays or goes, because Son is still a good footballer. Against Villa away this season, he had Matty Cash on toast and Cameron on toast, and he's still got pace. He's a slight guy. These guys are he's still fast, right? He might not have the afterburners to blast away, like he scored that goal from our own penalty against Burnley, but he's still quick and he's still a good finisher with both feet. And if you're Frank, you want that player in your squad. You want your experienced players, because you've got Champions League football, and experienced players are going to determine our season this year. And we're going to have to rely on Maddison, Solanke, maybe even Richarlison, because he said he liked him. I'd like Richarlison gone and Basuma there to be the first to I'd get rid of. But we'll see. We don't know. And then when we get the first signing in, whoever it is, and look, I'm not bothered. If we didn't get Kudus, would I be distraught? No, because we've been linked with plenty of good players in this transfer window. We've been linked with plenty of good players, and our rivals can't buy everyone, right? They can't buy everyone. We'll be fine. But asking for Spurs fans to be patient, it's like asking Drew to turn water into wine. It's not going to happen, right? It's not going to happen. So I'm all for keeping him, and respect the player. He's given us 10 years. He's the 4-5 goal scorer in the club's history. I think one goal and he equals it, or go past it. It'll become the third this coming season. I'm pleased he's decided to stay and wants to stay. And for him to stay, there's had to have been a conversation anyway, because you want to know that he's wanted, right? So there's been a conversation.
I've always believed it's better to get rid of a player a year early before a year late. Because at that point, you say, essentially you sack whatever value that you were potentially going to get from him, right? And I can understand his non-desire to go to the Saudi Pro League. I wouldn't want to go either. But that being said, if he has an opportunity to make a boatload of money before he calls it a day, then you have to do what's right. He's got to do what's right by him and his family. I would rather go the MLS route than the Saudi Pro League. But that being said, if your best option is staying and playing, being a part of being in the Champions League and potentially kicking on to the top four, I mean, it almost makes sense for him to stick around.
Mick Vickers in the chat says, I feel like keeping Sonny for another year would be a bit of a mistake. Is Frank big enough to say that he doesn't want him? And I think you've got to hope that Frank would, but you've got to think that if he stays, then Frank's obviously clearly given him the green light to stay, right? And to your point, Steve, I mean, you could probably go off and make a boatload of money, but by all accounts, I think he's pretty much set up just with all of his commercial activities and stuff in Korea that he does. I mean, I'm sure he's got boatloads anyway, so I'm not entirely sure that he's really needs it that badly, as opposed to some players that you sort of look at and you sort of raise your eyebrows and think, really, he's going over there, and you kind of the bottom line is they probably want a payday. This is Christ's sake, if Son stays, his only challenger for his spot is Tell. But then Spud says
well, if he
more as well.
You've only got Tell then, David. If he doesn't, then you've only got Tell, right? Unless you're playing Mike Moore. Let me ask you this. Here's a question. What's wrong with letting a player see out his contract? What's wrong with that? Do you buy him with the intention you're not going to let his player? If you buy a player and give him a 5-year contract, surely your intention is not he's going to be good for 5 years. What's the point?
Does the same apply to Ben Davies?
It's all right. You're too sentimental, Adrian. Is saying Mick Vickers?
With that logic, does the same apply to Ben Davies?
I'm not being sentimental. I'd get rid of Richarlison and Basuma. I'm not being sentimental. So
I mean, Richarlison and Basuma, there's not really any sentimentality in those players like there would be with Sonny, would there? There's not. I mean, let's say Sonny and Harry Kane. There's a little bit more sentimentality in that, surely.
True.
Yeah, and especially with, you bring up a good point, Steve. Ben Davies as well, and it was one of the things that I wanted to touch on, because I guess my concern. I mean, I have mixed feelings with Sonny. I obviously absolutely love him to bits. I still think back to goals that he's banged in. I mean, the goal when he was playing on the right side, the goal against Chelsea with the one touch through from Eriksen, the pass when he just went past 3 players, including David Luiz, and tucked it in the far corner. Like goals like that. The goals against Leicester when he just pinged it, postage stamp. The things that you remember with Sonny. The goal against Burnley where he took on everybody. But he's clearly, obviously, not, and it's to be expected. He's not going to have those heights of playing for year on year. He's 32 years old, coming up to 33. He's going to start losing a little bit of it. I'm concerned that there is, to Mick's point, a little bit of the sort of sentimentality thing, and you'd kind of have to be a little bit ruthless. But that being said, I also see the flip side of it. Like if we are in a situation, regardless of what has been said in a video clip, that maybe in hindsight the media team would probably, I think, maybe adjust at this point. But when Levy turned around and said that he wanted to win the Premier League and the Champions League, I mean, he didn't specify next year. I don't think it was going to be anytime soon. And when you look at the movements that we've been doing, you look at the players coming through, you look at the likes of, the purchases of Archie Gray, Bergvall, Vuskovic, the Takai that's coming in, Ollie Boast, all these kids. This is, I don't know if I'm breaking it to anybody, but this seems to me like it's going to be an actual project. Now, whether they actually see it through or not is going to be another thing. We could be sitting here 18 months from now and looking at another coach, because even though they're now giving the impression that they've got more patience and they actually want to do something, the proof will be in the pudding. If we finish mid-table next year, don't get into Europe and don't win anything, I'd like to see what actually the situation's going to be. But for the time being, I think that they brought in, this manager because I think that they think that he can get a lot more out of these players than the previous one. I don't think they're looking to spend too much money. They've already put out the signals that, there's not a lot of money on the cards. I know people are obviously, it depends on If the kudos thing comes in and it's obviously 50, 60 million, then fair enough. But I said a couple of weeks ago, I wouldn't be surprised if Tell was the biggest purchase this off season. And I got some raised eyebrows. But the more it goes on, the more you think to yourself, I mean, what else? Who else? Like, unless you go start punching above your weight, who do you really go out and get when you're looking at also trying to work within the parameters of the UEFA Champions League squad requirements, the homegrown, requirements? I think I think this season, especially when you consider who you've got coming through, I think they're going to try and punch as high as they can. They're going to do as good as they can. And I think the hope is that these young kids that start coming through will start to fix the homegrown club trained thing just in time for the rules to be changed, by the way, where it doesn't even become a problem. Do you know what I mean? Because that'll be the thing, because that's always the thing with Tottenham. We toe the line because we think it will benefit us, and it benefits us right up to the point where they change the rules and it doesn't benefit us at all. So that's fantastic. But anyway, I'm starting to waffle. Adrian, I want to ask you.
With Davis, we haven't, unless we're going to bring Vaskovic in, who can play as left centre back, but might create a problem for the 14 players we're only allowed with the ECL squad now, unless we get foreign players, unless we get Kyle Walker-Peters in, then we get 15. So only Vaskovic and Dorrington play on the left. So Davis is the only other experienced players. I get that Frank would want to come into if I'm a manager and coming into a new club, I'd want to keep him. If we sold him to Wrexham, who've been interested, I wouldn't be bothered. Right? Again, I mean, it doesn't bother me. I think there's more gravitas in keeping Son than there is in keeping Davis. I mean, because well, why not blood one of these youngsters? The problem with Vaskovic is he may well get another loan just because he classed as a foreign player for the ECL, and we might not have room for him simply because last season we left Dragosin out in the January list. We left Dragosin out, Kinksky out, and Werner out because we brought in Tell, Danso, and Spence. Now we're going to have an issue. And players, if we're bringing in foreign players, they're going to want to be in that Champions League squad from the beginning, and in that Champions League squad when the list is posted again in January, the quota. So this is an issue that this club has been awful at, right? It's our whole lack of professionalism. We've let this happen. We've let Whiteman go. We've let players like Noel John go and others, Santiago, players like that might have given us, I think Noel John would probably have given us another space if he'd stayed. But then again, are you going to want an academy player in the squad if you're never going to use him? And the only reason you put him in there is to allow you to have another extra European space. Is the manager not going to play him? I could see Kyle Walker-Peters getting games. I could see the point of going for Sirkin, who's younger at 23, but Dennis Sirkin would cost you a bit more from Sunderland than Kyle Walker-Peters, who's on a free. I mean, Walker-Peters can still demand a signing on fee for his agent and wages, So I think we'll get him in to get the extra Champions Leagues. But I could be wrong. We might not bother. We might ride out the storm till next year, next season, or when we might have a lot. We might not have the issue next year. I'm not sure what the status is of the players at the club. It says they've got to be academy trained for 3 years from 15 to 21. I don't quite believe that rule. And if it is that rule, I think you've got to be with the academy and not go out on loan. Because I don't see it being an issue otherwise. I mean, I haven't. It's a bit 15 to 21. I'm not sure, because then I'm pretty sure Mikey Moore, he's 18 in August. I think he was at there's lots of players that have been at this club at 14. I don't think that 15 to 21 rule's right. And if it is, it comes with a strict proviso that you've got to be with the academy for 3 years and not have been loaned out over for. But I stand to be corrected. If anyone knows in the chat, let me know, because I'm sure this will come to light when we get to playing the Champions League. And I don't trust the sources out there. I don't trust the ones I've seen.
Adrian, we've been going for an hour. We've got 102 people watching across various platforms. So if you want to give the channel a plug and give us some info.
We appreciate your support. We are a new group. We've only been going a year. We've got 102 of you watching, and if any of you want to subscribe and you haven't subscribed, you'll see the little subscribe button in the bottom right hand corner. We can't see it because we're live. Please hit the subscribe button.
Unless you're Graham.
Bless you, Graham. And if you want to join, and when we have 3 types of membership out there. If you wish to join us, we do have a Facebook group of 14,500 members. We have an XCOM group, which is just Spurs Diehards. You can find it at Spurs Diehards, which has got 3,200 members in it. We've got a page which is approaching new page, Facebook page approaching 300 members, and our live podcasts go out on all those platforms as well. Shows go out Tuesdays, Fridays, and Sundays at 10 o'clock UK time. Regularly, they'll go out. Once the season starts, the Tuesday show may switch to Wednesday and back to a Tuesday, according to the Champions League draw, of course. If we're playing a game and I'm going to the home game on a Tuesday because I host Tuesdays, Drew does Friday as an EMF co-owner of the podcast. He does Sundays. Then I'll probably doing the post match on a Wednesday. So we might have shows. Probably will be once the season kicks in on a Tuesday and a Wednesday, but the Friday and Sunday shows are set in stone. Yeah, and with that, thank you all for your support. It's fantastic. And a big up to those of you that watch us on playback as well. And with that, back to you, Drew. You're on mute, Drew. You're on mute.
He's only got to muted himself. Just give Graham another little big up here to 1 month membership. So smash the likes up, folks. Come on, you Spurs. And absolutely come on, you Spurs. Steve, I know we typically plug you a little bit.
While we promote
I was going to say, I know we normally would do this at the end, but I've just added a little banner here. If you want to give yourself a little plug, Steve, and let us know what you got coming up, and then we'll get into some more conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Tomorrow morning at 7 a.m., 12 noon UK time, it's the American Hotspur on stateside footy as we're playing a game of start, sell, and drop with the first team. So that's going to be fun tomorrow morning. And then on Sunday, it is the CONCACAF Gold Cup finals. The U.S. men's national team plays their arch rival Mexico. And every single time these two clubs meet, these two teams meet, it's always physical. It's always chippy. There's a lot of players chirping in each other's ears, and it's quintessential CONCACAF football. I'll dare to say that U.S. Mexico is the best rivalry in international football. That's going to be live at 7 o'clock Eastern, 12 UK on stateside footy. So head over there and hit the subscribe button. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be fireworks Sunday night.
Awesome. Good times. David Clark said, if online they can't be considered as club trained. Oh, this is just in regards to your club trained, Adrian.
Well, to give you an example, when Pap Sarr was with Metz in France, we thought because he was registered with the club, his years on loan out then would mean that he could qualify as academy trained player. But the rules went no. He couldn't. I don't know if you remember that, but he couldn't.
No, I do remember that. Mr. M says finger out. Brilliant.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
I love
he
that.
does it on every show.
I know. That's why it's brilliant.
It's funny.
Let me ask you this, right? All right, Steve. Right, let's assume the Kudus thing happens. He comes through the door. As I say, we've already got Tell. How much more, or what do you expect would be the next move after that? Would we have to be looking at potentially sort of one in, one out? Because I know we get to sort of this time of the year, and I fall foul of it as well. You sort of look at who's available, or you look at the players making moves, you look at the teams making moves for players, and there's sort of some instances you want your team to strike early. In some instances, you're waiting for dominoes to fall. There's been sort of hypotheticals that, one of our potential targets, Eze, looked like, you know, he was being schmoozed by us. He's in one of our boxes a couple of times this season. You know, him and a couple of our players are really good friends. Then there's rumors that, you know, we weren't really even considering him, and it's more likely that he's going to go to that lot up the road. Well, now that our lot up the road are sniffing around potentially getting Rodrigo from Real Madrid. And then Alonso says that if the right price comes in, Rodrigo can go. So now you're looking and you're thinking, well, if we potentially, and this was brought up on another show earlier, and I've got to say probably another big up to Sean Butler, but he posed this earlier, I believe, on his show, that, you know, you're kind of waiting for things to fall. And is it possible that, you know, you just do need a little bit of patience, because you could find yourself in a position where if you do sort of end up pulling the trigger too quickly, you could end up losing out on somebody that, you know, 3-4 weeks from now might be available. And is it a case of, you know, across the board, you've got to, you know, you waiting for dominoes to fall? What domino is next? What domino is next? What needs to fall for the next move to be made?
Yeah, I'm fully expecting to see some outgoings within the next couple of weeks, because there's a lot that actually could be done within the scope of the next 2 weeks. Manor Solomon, Feliz, Brian Hill. There's a lot of players that in the meantime, while they're waiting for certain things to play out, that they can pad their transfer budget in the meantime, right? So I've heard on multiple occasions that Arsenal themselves are looking for a striker. I've heard the name, Victor Gyökeres a couple times, the striker from Sporting CP. I've also heard Rodrigo as well too. And the issue with Eze is waiting for the green. Eze's camp is waiting for the green light from Arsenal. But right now, hey, cut it out, man, cut it out, Stevie D, cut it out. Anyway, from that camp, they're just waiting. They're just waiting for the green light. But Arsenal is, Arsenal has different targets that they're trying to get done first. But that being said, so Tottenham are waiting back on Eze, waiting to see what's going to happen with that, because they're going to be in a position to potentially pull the trigger. But also, here's also another name that there's a lot of smoke surrounding him, and that's Xavi Simons of Red Bull Leipzig. I think Leipzig is looking for 68 million euros, which is actually 58 million pounds. And I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I actually think Xavi Simons is the better player over Eze.
Yeah.
Eze, by the way, Eze actually kind of helps you, in the homegrown department, because obviously he's an English international. But that being said, the thing I like about Xavi Simons is the fact that he does everything that Eze does, but he does it a little bit better, and he can actually play in multiple positions. So you can actually use him in different formations. And me personally, I just think he's the better player. And I actually think. Go ahead.
He's more consistent.
Correct. And the thing that I actually think Tottenham are actually in an advantageous position, because you have one target that's waiting to see what happens. With Arsenal. Meanwhile, if Spurs were smart, they would be essentially trying to lay the groundwork to get Xavi Simons through the door, because that actually is a target they can actually get. As a matter of fact, just by the fact that we're playing Champions League football and we're a London-based team is something that appeals to Xavi Simons. It actually makes sense.
So anything to this? Brian Maguire comes in, says Simmons has an attitude problem. Anything to that?
All Dutch players have an attitude problem. They do. It's just part of being Dutch. They're great, you know what I mean? But
he plays for a German side that
always struggle with them. They always struggle with them. They're all like, they are a bit, in your face.
He plays for a German side that doesn't win trophies. I would have an attitude too.
Yeah. I mean, I'm in agreement, Steve, on this one. I mean, I would take either. But if it's a question of the 320 mil payments and Spurs don't want that, they want to spread it out over 5 years or no deal, and we got Simons, I would take him. Even though Eze's homegrown, it doesn't affect our homegrown. and he wouldn't count as academy trained anyway. So it doesn't really affect us. So I would take Simons at a pinch. I actually think Eze's great. I wanted him last year. Him and Dorgu were the two players I wanted in the club. Dorgu went to Man United, the left back. But because I think he's so skillful and he is a traditional sort of Spurs type of player, Eze, still take him. But like, if we lost Eze and we got Simons, I'd be happy as well. I'd be happy. I'd be so happy with either of those, you know.
Yeah.
And then if you had Kudus, you're just looking for a midfielder, really, and we're done because we'll get Kyle Walker-Peters, and I think that'll be us done.
You guys think? Do you guys think Romero's staying? You guys think Romero's staying?
Well, let's talk about it, right?
Let's talk about it. Go on.
My theory, is there a banner there or whatever? Yeah. I mean, my theory on Romero is prior to us winning the Europa League, I get the noise about him going, Spurs don't win nothing, Spurs in all this, right? And he would have a genuine argument and saying, like, I want to go, want to try my luck in Spain, right? And I get that. With Atletico Madrid, not exactly perennial winners out there. They might nick a cup. It's mainly Barcelona and Real Madrid. But there's rumours that Real Madrid are interested as well. He would be a perfect replacement for Sergio Ramos, really. I mean, he's a quality centre-back. But now, I think Levy can do what he did with Bale and all this. He can drag this out for another year. Frank won't want to lose him. Frank won't want. We're in the Champions League. I mean, both the Spanish clubs, all three will be in it anyway. But he's in the Champions League. So it's not like he can stamp his feet like a Rumpelstiltskin and demand a move. No matter how much Simeone might want to bend his ear and phone up every day and give Atletico Madrid a large phone bill, right?
I got to ask, who does this Stiltskins play for at the moment? Who's he currently with? This Rumpel bloke.
Rumpelstiltskin is a fairy tale character who, in a rage, Okay, all right, but I didn't know that. You see, so in a rage, stamps his feet and falls through the earth, right? Basically,
blimey.
Yeah. So
you think you think obviously Ronaldo. You think Romero is happy to? Obviously, he's gotten his Champions League football. You don't think there's any chance of him throwing his toys out?
No, I don't think he would. I don't think he'd throw his toys out the Prem simply because we've won. I think he'd just be resigned to a situation that Levy say couldn't get a deal done, and wouldn't pay the money. And if Real Madrid come in, Levy would be licking his lips because now it's an auction, right? So if then it got a 70 mil, 75 mil, I think Levy would be tempted. I think he's a 70, 75 mil player anyway. Right. It's just the transfer market's deflated. Yeah. Even I mean, in the market years ago, he's an 85 million pound player. You know, if Liverpool paid 70 million for Van Dijk, to me, Romero is equally as good.
Yeah.
So I mean, and I would even argue he's better, but you know that would get me some.
My concern is Real Madrid have done a pretty good job, but they're very clever about acquiring players for little to no money. I mean, I know they obviously have been known to shell out a transfer fee or two, but they've been pretty shrewd in terms of getting some
they got the
big names.
I think the story link of Romero is rubbish with them, but it's like most of the media out there. I think it's still Atletico, and I don't think anyone else. PSG aren't interested. Bayern,
right?
No, I don't think they owe us money. Pay us what you owe us first. You know what I mean? And I think we'll have. I don't believe we haven't got money to spend either. I don't believe that. We've got the money for Højbjerg coming in. There's still Kane money coming in. Part of that each season.
I don't think there is, Adrian. I think we talked about this last week. There was a dude on another channel that basically said that I think he was a finance guy and said the 99% of the Kane money had already been paid up. So I don't think it is. But I don't know. Well, could be wrong. I'm not sure.
We would have money to spend because that was all profit. So it means we could spend more on the PSR because he's like a solid profit player for us. So with Kane, so there's money there. I mean, I still think this is us, Levy, playing the poverty again. I can still see us getting 2 top-class players in and that midfielder with Walker-Peters. I think we're getting 4 in this window. and on top of the kids we brought in and everything else.
Is
I
that
think
on
we'll
top
get-
like four going forward, and like not including the business
Yeah.
we've already done?
Exactly. Yeah, I think we'll get Carl Walker Peters, and I think we'll get 3 players in. I think Kudus be one. All this talk we're only going to get in one, like sort of top quality player in. I think that's rubbish. I mean, because I think we'll sell, and I still think Basuma goes.
Do you think? Steve, you think Basuma's? You both agree that Basuma's probably one likely to head out the door. Yeah, you don't think
100%.
Frank's gonna? You don't think Frank's gonna rub some Thomas magic on him?
The interesting thing though is like with Romero. I know we're talking about Basuma real quick, but getting rid of Romero now is akin to shooting yourself in the foot before you even had an opportunity to take a step forward. When you actually have a center back pairing as good as the one that we have, the last thing you want to do is break that up and think that it's okay because we got Kevin Danso and Rado Dragic, that can potentially step in. It's like the levels between Romero and those guys are so it's so big that
Well, what do you do?
Hold on.
What do you
if
do?
We sell them, then we have to replace them, right? And who's available right now that Tottenham can actually get that is like for like getting back in the door.
But the way that you're putting that question forward is that we're trying to kick him out the door. Like you're posing that question like we're trying to push him out, get him on a plane, and get him as far away from the club as possible. And I just don't know that that's fair because what if the guy has flat out turned around and said, "I don't want to be a part of this project." And this is all hypothetical, but let's just say that he's turned around and said, "You know what? I'm just not into this. I'm really not feeling it. I want to go." At that point, do you not try and just get as much money for the asset as you possibly can?
Tough. No, I mean tough. You have 2 years left on your deal, and we're not even thinking about selling you until next summer.
And that's the big thing.
Because we're back in the Champions League. But I'll just say this, right? When Romero said that he wants to play in La Liga, he wasn't saying right now, right? Just like when Levy said that he wants to win the Premier League and the Champions League, he wasn't saying right now, right? I do believe that he wants to play in La Liga, but I also believe that he's the type of dude that is going to honor his contract. And
he can wait a year. He can wait a year.
Spurs have no need to sell him right now. That's why I don't even believe they're trying to slow play it. I think, especially with they want to give Thomas Frank as many weapons as he possibly can to at least have a good showing in his first season and have a good showing in the Champions League. Selling Christian Romero would be absolutely foolhardy at this point. Not to mention the fact that we can't even replace him at this time right now.
He can wait a year. But Steve, what about the difference with Basuma and Bentancur? They're down to their last year. Yeah. So what's your take on them?
I would be doing whatever I can to get Bentancur to sign an extension. That would be my top priority, is making sure that you keep him around for at least another 3 more years. With Basuma, the problem with Basuma is he can't be trusted. And I understand that he finished the Europa League strong. But that being said, there is a large sample size of him being absolutely irresponsible, him not taking football seriously, him essentially being a liability on the pitch. And unfortunately, I just don't think it's going to get better under Thomas Frank. And if you can get 20 mil from another Premier League team, if you can actually get something close to his market value, I think that's a win.
I think Potter would be tempted to take him to West Ham. Could swear on it, obviously, but it seems a logical move. I mean, there was rumours that Palace and Everton were interested, so there wouldn't be no shortage of takers for Basuma.
Correct.
I mean, unlike you, I'd like to keep Bentancur. I've always liked the player.
I do too, and I like the fact that he can play as a 6 and as a box-to-box if you need it, right? But I just think, in the context, which player gives you a better opportunity to win?
This is why you have to play a mid. If you haven't got a Rodri, right, which no one's got, there's not another one out there, then you play a pivot. Because even times when Ainge tried to play him as a pivot, sometimes he got a bit swamped. He didn't get enough help. When he played the pivot, whether it was Bentancur alongside him or Sarr, Bentancur coped much better in the more difficult games. He coped much better. because this. I don't like numbers, to be honest with you. You're either a good player or not, and you can play defensively or not as a midfielder, or you're attacking midfielder. So I like Bentancur. I think he brings a lot.
Yeah.
I think for someone who's had an ACL, he's done well to come back. People are criticising him. They say that, but you don't need, you don't need as much pace in midfield or in your centre backs as you do in your wide players, and your forwards up front. It's just we're lucky, we're blessed with VDV, who's got tremendous pace. So so I would want to keep Bentancur and get rid of Basuma. There's fans out there would like to get rid of both. Well, yeah, fine, as long as we bring in upgrades.
Correct.
And I haven't got issue with it. If Bentancur went then last year, I don't think there'd be no shortage of takers for him. But yeah.
I just think I think the same with Bentancur is the same that I think with Romero. It's like you don't want to shoot yourself in the foot before you can actually take a step forward, right? Bentancur is actually is so versatile in this team. Now, granted, he's not a leader. I'll admit to that. But that being said, he's when he's on his game, he's one of the best midfielders in the Prem. It's just you have to do what you can to make sure he keeps an extension. But this comment here by the Potato, and me personally, I like the Potato, but to even hint that Romero isn't fully committed, I don't know, man. I disagree with that. I think Romero is 100% committed to this team. And even when he was taking pot shots at Levy and the board, what ended up happening? We won a trophy. And he was one of the biggest reasons why we won a trophy. And now we're playing in Champions League. He's committed. And
you get fans turn around and say best ability is availability. Well, Werner was available, so I'm not having that, right? And then you get like, he's not good, he's not committed, he's always injured, but he's fit for Argentina. Well, that's not his fault he gets injured. That doesn't mean the player's not a quality footballer just because he gets injured. He's still quality. It's just unfortunate he's injured. And if he happens to recover in time, I mean, we know our science team and medical team are crap, so sack them all anyway. But like that isn't his fault. A player's still quality. If he's injury prone, you get rid of him because they're injury prone. It's persistent, like Sessegnon or something like that. Then fair enough, I get that. I have no argument with that. But it doesn't mean to say that Romero's a bad player or lacks quality just because he's been injured more than he should. But then
just based on that hypothesis, right? Let me ask you this: if he's got 2 years left on his contract, if he continued the same appearance ratio of appearing and not appearing, either through injury or suspension, for the next 2 seasons, and only ended up playing 68% of the games, he didn't sign a contract, let it run down, and went on a free 2 years from now, you'd be happy with that, provided he gave 100% for the next 2 seasons, as opposed to him being honest with the club. And as I say, this is all hypothetical. Him being honest with the club being honest with him, them deciding that they're having different conversations or they're going on different paths, and they say, do you know what? It's probably best to cash in now. You'd sell him now for the highest price that you could, so that you can reinvest in the squad.
Romero could be injured again, right? But then he could be fit enough for us to win an FA Cup or a League Cup, right? And then and why? I mean, this is the thing we fall into a trap with as well. I was injured, I'll get rid of. Think about we're in the Champions League. You keep your best players. You keep your best players. Don't think about contracts. We're thinking about this season. After this season, we see where we are, right? He could go next season or he stays again. We see how we do in the domestic cups and our league position this season, because we're not winning the league. We're not winning the Champions League. But, we've got a chance in the domestic cups and we've got a chance of finishing top fifth, I think at best, to 7th. And I think most fans would take a domestic trophy and finish in 6th or 7th, because that would mean the Europa League, and we can win that, and we can win that again. So, I mean, you keep him. To me, you keep him. Trying to predicting doom. We have a habit in this club of predicting doom before it happens. We don't look on the bright side. We're always like, Oh yeah, VDV's going to
Even
do
in
his
audio.
hand, right? He's going to do it. But we don't know that. We don't know that's going to happen,
No,
right?
very
And under
true,
a
very
different
true.
system under Frank, we don't know. We don't know Romero's going to get injured. He might have an injury-free season. When those two
Correct.
are played together, we
Correct.
won most of their games. So, like, look at someone like Porro. He played more minutes than everyone. I've been one of his fiercest critics. You know, I think he's technically superb, right? He played 4,000 minutes. You look at Deck, he was taking stick, but he played 40 games last season, less than Porro, right? Less minutes than Porro. Then he was running through Treacle, and eventually his body gave out, and people were saying, "Oh, Decky's crap." Hang about. We had so many injuries that players that were overplayed and they got knackered and their performances dropped off as well, which was going to happen, right?
Correct.
So,
Correct.
so like,
But I also think it's important to remember that Thomas Frank is not going to be running our center backs to death like Ange Postecoglou had, playing a high line, and the work rate that was required to operate that high line. I would probably assume that regardless of the formation that Thomas Frank uses, there's probably going to be less wear and tear on both of those center backs, and they're probably going to be, they're tactically going to be in the right spaces that they're probably accustomed to playing. So I probably assume with less of a work rate and more of a stationary box to box center backs that it traditionally play, I would probably assume that both Romero and Van de Ven are probably going to be on the season more than they won't. But also, I also want to point this out real quick. That Nita was saying something about the question is if we keep him, will he step up? And it's like, of course he will, because he's a professional. He's not gonna tank his own career, off a grudge because he doesn't like Daniel Levy. Because let's just say that we keep him, but as a protest, he like what's the buzz term? Quiet quits, and he doesn't play up to his full potential. Then he sinks his own value, right? So. Gone goes Atletico Madrid, gone goes, Real Madrid, Barcelona, Bayern Munich, all the top teams that would love to have him. If he stays and he tanks it for personal reasons, all those teams go away.
Look, he stepped up in the European games. He stepped up in three of them. He was the man of the tournament, right?
He's going to play.
Fantastic. He was fantastic. He showed his quality. A World Cup winner, 2 Copa Americas, and now a Europa League winner. He showed his quality. He's a quality footballer, right? And we need to keep our best players.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, guys. Let me ask you this, because I'd like to get both of your opinions. If let's say Kudus comes through the door, there's no more acquisitions, but there's no more departures. No. Let me say there's no more acquisitions.
I'm sorry.
I just want to know what you guys think. I want to gauge how good you think this squad is if it was fully fit, and how good you think Thomas Frank is as a coach. All right, I tell you what, we get Kudus in, Basuma goes, and we get in another good defensive midfielder that can work as a single six or in a double pivot. So we get a little bit more solidity in the midfield. But let's just say essentially we're going with same back five, one more change in midfield, one change up top. How good is this squad with Thomas Frank coaching it? What is the point swing? And the reason I'm asking is because I was looking online earlier at the biggest point swing between one season to another from a team. And it's Chelsea. And I think it was like 43 points or something like that. From the year that they I think
finished 12th, right?
Yeah, right. That finished and then went on to become champions.
That was under Conte, wasn't he? When
it was under Conte. So how, I guess, are we looking at this squad, and because we've got recency bias and seen how bad we are in the league, we can't see potentially how good we can be? Like, how good is the squad? How good is Thomas Frank? What's the point swing from this season to next season? Like, realistically, how good do you think this team can be? I'll let you go first, Steve. Well, go on, Adrian. No, you go first, and we'll have
go ahead,
Steve.
Adrian.
I think, I would leave my house as a season ticket. I wouldn't go to the matches if I thought we were going to lose games. That's why I was always had a positive outlook. But I think we should aim for fifth. We should be aiming for fifth position. So, fair enough, Nita. So we should aim for fifth. And if we got sixth or seventh, I think that'd be good. I don't know what points it was this year. I can't remember what it would be to get sixth or seventh. We know this team underperformed in the league. We know injuries were a big part in that, and then tiredness when players were overplayed. So it was a combination of things. It was a perfect storm of everything that could go wrong. But then Ange walks away as a legend with a trophy. So it's bizarre. Typical Spurs in a way. This could only happen to Tottenham, right? So So I think it will be a big enough swing to get us fifth, sixth, or seventh. And I'll take sixth or seventh. I want fifth.
So you think one way or another, there's going to be European football again?
Yeah, I just think there's too much quality in the squad. I mean, and I think actually that you imagine, look at the experience that players like Graham, Bergvall, and Spence have got, who would have been drip-fed into this squad if it wasn't for all those injuries. Mikey Moore made 19 appearances. Not a lot of minutes, but he made 19 appearances. And now look at the likes of Moore and Gray and that, right? Gray's got a medal with Young England 21s, right? He's also... These guys have picked up Europa League medals. This is a very young squad Spurs have got. They picked up Europa League medals. The belief and confidence that's going to give them, because they've got now shown they've got the mentality to get away over the line against. It was a tough game against Man United. If Garnacho had started, we probably got beat, right? But and that will give them a tremendous belief going into the season. I've seen it before when Spurs have won trophies in the past and gone on to have good season. 81, then we went 82, all right, with nothing in 83, 84. You see it, 71, 72, 73 at Apps. 91, we didn't follow up. We was nearly bust and we started selling players. Right? That's why. Otherwise, we'd have continued. We'd have gone on and had success the year before the Premier League was inaugurated. But these players, they've got medals. Some players will never get a medal.
That can't be underestimated. They're genuinely can't be we have a hard time sort of. And I put myself in this category as well. Like the average fan or the general Joe public that watches football can't really sort of comprehend or grasp what it means for a player in his career to actually sort of touch a piece of silverware like that and what it can do to propel them. Like you guys, you sort of genuinely think that because of the sort of projection of, let's say, your Berryvales and your Greys from what it could have been to what it actually was next year, you think there's substantial growth there, and where there's every chance you'll just see sort of I mean,
it's belief. Players they'll have tremendous belief in themselves, and also for one so young. There's always pressure on you going into games and performing well, especially when you're young, trying to hold your place. There's that, the belief comes, and with that comes a little easing of the pressure on you, a little easing of the pressure because you've got over the line, you've won a trophy. So you still got to be giving it your all, and you've got to want to build on your achievement and kick on. Right?
I mean, I guess the one nice thing about Berryvale and Gray and that is that they've not even been shackled with the burden of being Spursy in the first place. They were first season and they've won a cup.
Yeah, but
even Werner got a medal.
Yeah. Well, right now it's a top 6 club. If right now as we stand, the talent on this team, it's a top 6 club, and I go back to the second half of last season. Because this squad was heavily rotated in the Premier League because they were trying to win that trophy. And so we didn't really get a good gauge of just exactly how our starting 11 would actually look like in the Premier League because we rarely saw them play in the Premier League. But that being said, when you look at Wilson Odegaard, Matisse Tell, Lucas Bergvall, Archie Gray, the fact that they played significant minutes last season, being able to actually be able to say that we can actually hang in the Premier League and we can actually be productive in the Premier League, and then being able to win a medal, I I don't know, man. That rarely happens when you have that many youngsters getting significant middles, and that leads to a winner's medal. But it's not just the young kids; it's Destiny Udogie, Vicario, Van de Ven, Romero, Poro, Kulusevski, Madison, Sonny to an extent, right? So I mean, for the fact that there's so much negativity towards Spurs not being able to win a trophy, and yet they were able to get over Manchester United. It's the continuity and the belief in the group coming back this year, knowing that they were able to do something that significant. It's going to pay off. It's going to pay off so huge. But that being said, now we're under new leadership with a coach that's going to know exactly how to get to actually put these players in positions where it accentuates their strengths. Me personally, yes, we absolutely do need more pieces through the door. But that being said, as of right now, 100% it's a top 6 team.
Yeah. And if you look, another important factor, I knew very little about Solanke before he came.
I think
15 goals in front, about 8 assists in your first season. He's a good link-up player, apart from being a good presser. I mean, don't get me wrong, I've seen decades of this club where strikers are a lot better than Solanke, just because they make things happen and score goals. Different. But the football's different now; it's changed.
Right.
So the whole style of the game has changed. I mean, back in the day, teams had 4 strikers. Now they've got 2. The way the game's played. So yeah, so that's a big difference. And I think he's done well. He's done very well. And he's made a lot of goals with his play as well, Solanke. He is a pain. Even Richarlison, if he stays, he gives you 100%. I mean, he's hard to play against, Richie. That shit Housery, you can't knock that. I mean, Solanke's got it as well. He's not he doesn't beat. He's sort of got that quiet aggression, whereas and he bullies defenders, where Richarlison's more right in your face, you know what I mean, with his shit house where he's a bit different. But Frank said he liked him. Now managers are wise not to slag off players anyway, right? So
right.
That might just be just talk and being nice, because you got rumours Richie's going, Frank likes him, he's staying. We just don't know, do we?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. You've got to at least wait, I would think, at least another week or so for him to get a good look at fitness over the next couple of days, get a couple of training sessions under his belt. I mean, the one thing you say about Richie is that when he has been available, he has a nasty habit of just stringing performances together, be it a goal or an assist. He's just unfortunately not been able to stay fit. But I mean, if we are going on this sort of hypothetical route, I mean, what do you do? And I guess it's just one of those things. It's a roll of the dice, isn't it? One of those things you just have to be okay with your decision. But it would just be that, we sell him just to get him off the books, and he goes off and does, 35, 38 games and puts in a 15 to 20 GA or something ridiculous. But, what do you – I can understand having to have a real good look, because if you do – let's say you get him out the door for – what are we thinking? 20, 30, 40 at a push if somebody from Saudi comes in. But then who do you go and get that's reliable, that isn't going to cost as much, if not more, that isn't happy, is going to be happy to, probably potentially have to play second fiddle to Solanke, unless you can say, look, you two are duking it out and you're just going to, wherever the chips may land, you're going to be first choice, or he is. It will just be what it is. But you like Sir Jonathan David, looks like he's going to Italy. Vlahovic, there's a possibility that maybe he's available, but the likelihood is he's potentially going somewhere that's going to pay 250, 300 grand a week. So where do you go for the forward that replaces?
Then you've got Muani, whose loan's up. He's back at PSG. Juventus want him on loan, but PSG want to sell him. You're looking at Sesko.
Wissa, good shout from the beast here.
Osimhen, Victor Osimhen. I mean, he's available as well. Chelsea want to dump in Kunku, but I mean, I'm not sure he suits us. There is there are players out there, but there's a dearth of strikers. The reason Richarlison you'd get 40 mil, because that's a pretty standard price for any low-level striker, as far as I'm concerned. And the market, like you take Brighton with Welbeck, right, keeping Evan Ferguson out the side, the ex-£100 million player. So like, yeah. So I mean, they need a number 9. Everton need a number 9. Calvert-Lewin's retiring, right? Well, it's not retiring. He won't sign a new contract. So you've got. I mean, the market for number 9s when teams need them. I mean, like, where you're playing as a striker, as a fulcrum to bring players on to get shots off target and play 1-2s. Richarlison can do that job, but like Rashford can't do it. He's always been a wide left. He wants to play for the middle, and he misses chances like galore as well. I mean, he looks good in flashes.
Let me ask you this, because I'm a little ignorant. Can Kudus do a job through the middle?
Yeah.
He's like Tell. He can play it. He can play it, but are you going to trust Kudus with significant minutes at the 9?
I just wonder, are we living in a world now where there isn't just out and out? I mean, unless you're a 6, there isn't just out and out. You know, in some instances you're an out and out player, right? In some instances you're absolutely a centre back or you're absolutely a 6. But then as soon as it gets to up front, it seems like you have to be able to sort of play all the way across the front line or drop deep and link up play. Like, it seems to be very, the back half of the field seem very set in their position, and the front half of the field, you need to, I don't know, it seems a bit contradictory, because on the one hand, you need to be able to express yourself, but on the other hand, you're kind of locked into a position, but then you should be able to play across the front. Like, I don't know if there's an expectation that when let's say Kudus does come in, he does keep Richie. You've got Solanke as well. You've got Johnson. Thomas Frank likes to kind of play with formations or kind of keep teams guessing. So can you see a scenario where they all kind of have minutes across all of that front, across that front 3 or 4?
Yeah, I mean, I even see a scenario where you can play Odebert or Mikey Moore as a 10 as well. I mean, we all play Football Manager, didn't we? I mean, we don't know. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen with Lancashire and Scarlett. One probably go out on loan, especially if Richie goes. You're going to have to keep one of them, in my opinion, because we don't know who we're going to get in. So, I mean, but Lancashire might go to West Brom with Ryan Mason on loan. Don't know what'll happen with Scarlett. He might go out on loan as well, but then you're now down to 2 number 9s. You need the third one.
Well, I mean, I keep on getting told that Sonny's still the best finisher at the club. So I mean, there's a scenario in the back of my mind where, Frank even looks at playing, having to go at Sonny through the middle. So I don't know. Like, it really is like, the more you think about it, the more you're kind of just guessing, because I just really have no idea what to expect.
Well, Sonny is a number 9.
You want your mouth out with soap, beast of TH.
We'll end up with Calvert-Lewin.
Well, he also mentioned Rasmus Højlund as well too. So it's like 2 names that I want nowhere near this team.
I mean, Sonny away from home as a 9 is more of an option, I think, than at home against a low block, because if he's got his back to goals, not that hot. Whereas if he can play off, you look at the away game at Ipswich last year. Gray put a through ball through to him. He's better off when he's running onto the ball. And at the other time, it was Bentancur put him through, and he ended up getting the assists. And that's when he's running. The problem we've had with a lot of our play last season, we're slow with our approach play. So we're passing balls to our wingers. We were turning with their back to goal. They've either got to beat a player on the half turn or play the ball back. And the safest ball is to play the ball back. And we kept doing that. We'll see how Frank deals with this, right? I mean, so Sonny's best when he's running on. When he's running on, he's better when he's running forward, right, and receiving the ball.
I just don't think that Spurs are going to spend a lot of money to bring in another striker. I can envision a scenario where if they get the right price for Richarlison, that they might be convinced to move on. But I think it's going to be one of those. I think it's going to be one of those things where they try to dip into the championship for a consistent goal scorer. Like a guy like Josh Sargent from Norwich City that has put together back-to-back 20-goal seasons, is ready for a step up in the Premier League, or maybe going to the Eredivisie or something like that, and bringing up a young proven striker in the Dutch league that's ready for a move up as well too. I know that Ricardo Pepi with PSV overtook Luke De Jong as their primary nine before his season ended. But that being said, to me, that's probably going to. If I had to take a guess, I would think that would probably be the route that they're going to go. They're going to try to find a diamond in the rough that's not necessarily going to cost them an arm and a leg. They're certainly not going to spend another $60 million on on a striker. I just can't see that happening personally.
Yeah.
Can I throw this out there? Could you see any chance club trained? Don't know if he does. I don't know if he counts as club trained homegrown. You see him getting Troy Parrott back. He did all right in the Eredivisie last season.
That's
you
not
see
a bad,
a world where
shout
that
out.
may be. I don't know.
So
I don't
watch
know
out.
whether he counts because he's Irish, whether he would count as homegrown, but surely he was with the club long enough to meet one of those quotas. That's just sort of come into my mind. Whether you maybe, I don't know. I don't know. More about, would you, either of you, I know this name was mentioned earlier, would you have Nkunku? Or you think there's too much of a issue with his potential injury proneness? Given our medical team.
Well, again, another player Chelsea want to get rid of. They want to get, apparently they're interested.
I guess we'd be doing him a favour,
wouldn't
wouldn't we?
as well. Who looks a decent player, doesn't he? He left
Good
us
shout
to
from
go.
Audio as well. What about Scarlett will be kept around for club train quota? We've only got him and Austin that qualify.
He qualifies for the B list though because he's 20.
Yeah.
Oh, Scarlett,
I
he's
don't
still
think
only
so.
20.
Yeah,
I don't
he
think
was
Scarlett's
17 when I
70
first
or-
watched him play. He's
I feel
20.
like he's been around long enough to be older than me.
Oh, no.
Jesus.
I can't envision Scarlett will be on the first team when the season starts.
Yeah.
Very
And
nice
what about
player.
the old? Is it Melia?
Yeah, Mason
Mason
Melia.
Melia. Oh, he's
Yeah,
just. Look, he needs
I think
to
he's
settle
only.
in.
Yeah, I think he's only 18 years old, and he's not going to join the club until January.
Yeah, fair
You
play.
got the other Irish guy, George Feeney. Then you've got a real couple of really good, but they are too young. I mean, like Williams Barnett looks so sensational at 16 and 17.
Nia says, "I'm ready to put up with our new manager." He hasn't. I'm ready to put up with our new manager. He hasn't started. Ange football was unbearable. Trophy bag, thank you, but Tottenham Hotspur, we need ready. CL in the mix. I'm guessing they're saying need sort of ready-made players.
If you think we're getting Carl Walker-Peters and we don't count him, how many other ready players do you think we're getting in? I think we'll get 3 in. We'll get Carl Walker-Peters, but I think we'll get 3 more.
I think we'll get 2.
Mhm.
I think we'll get 2. And I think we'll get 2. I think we'll get 2 players that will probably be in that £60 million range, and I think we're going to get another 30 million pound player around the same price hold as Matisse Tell, and then I think we're just going to get more kids.
Well, the word coming out of the club early in the season, or a lot earlier in the season, was that we were going to bring in a midfielder, a striker, and a wide player. And we haven't done either, which is not unusual for Spurs. We haven't done either, but and I think we'll get one.
Kudus will certainly count as the wide player.
Yeah.
Well, and I do wonder whether we were touched on it earlier on, but I don't think we went into too much detail. But Ben Davies, I mean, obviously his contract was extended, but that was just triggered for the year. It wasn't like we went out of our way to offer him another year. So that was just something that happened. And that was just basically to protect the asset because of his value, because he could have just walked away. So there's still a chance that Wrexham come in for him. I think the stumbling block may be the wages, but there's a chance that he might go. And if he does, then there's definitely need for more cover on that left side. I would think it would probably be in the form of a player that can cover both left centre back and left back. So I'm wondering whether you think I think potentially it's going to be Kudus or somebody in that spot. I think it'll be a midfielder, and I think it'll be defensive cover on that left-hand side. Would be the three that I would sort of hope to see.
I could see Davis going, but then that would free up the space to bring a young kid in. Those that can play on that left side of Dorrington and Vuskovic, they can play there. So then you've got the option of those two. I think Frank would just. I mean, you're a new manager. I'd want to keep my experienced players.
We're talking what I would like to see.
And all that, but I mean, right. I'd love an Incapi. You know what I mean? I would love Incapi and play left back as well. I mean, even Kota Takai, he can play right back as well.
Yeah.
So he's not just a centre back, right?
Well, and I'm wondering whether as well I can see a scenario where. And I don't know, because this would work. This would potentially works with Ben Davies or with another left-sided centre back. But I see a scenario this season, because of the way that Thomas Frank likes to play, where I think the team sheet is going to show VDV deployed as a left back, and I think when they actually get out on the field, you'll see them shift over, and I think it will be a three-man, like back three, and I think you'll see Porro up the field as almost like an auxiliary right winger, and you'll basically have a back three of VDV, another centre back, Romero, where they've all kind of shuffled across, or Romero will be the centre and there'll be another one. But I can see things like that happening, which again is I guess another reason to sort of be somewhat optimistic and excited that you're going to see that sort of thing. And it just, that then gives the question, well, what exactly does. And this is the question I posed last week, and I've been thinking about it all week. Like, what exactly does this team need? And I think Big B is echoing some sentiments that I've had as well recently. Big up, Big B. Says, hope Donnelly makes the squad.
Yeah, I do.
And I think if you've got you've got a situation, Adrian, just where, Kulusevski is obviously still a couple of months back from, fitness. Yeah. But I think if you can have, if Maddison can maybe hit the ground running, you've got maybe Donnelly backing up Maddison for the first few weeks, and then you've got the Kulu, Maddison, Donnelly in sort of that number 10, right-sided 10 sort of rotation. Or Donnelly, I know he's left-footed as well, so that suits him even better.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd love to see it.
We've got 15 days before we play Reading away, and Kulusevski and Maddison are both going to miss a chunk of pre-season. I don't think they're going to be ready for this game. Are going to be risked. They'll be in training. So I think Donnelly's going to have a chance. And he's got to hit the ground running. He did ever so well at Orient last year with Josh Keeley. And I think Donnelly will get his chance. I want to see him get his chance. I mean, when he first came to the club, he came in as a striker and from Northern Ireland. And Wayne Burnett, who's done a fantastic job around the 21s. I mean, they haven't had a great season this season because everyone's been out on loan. But he converted Donnelly into a 10. And I don't think Donnelly's looked back. He just looks a natural at a 10. He's got a fantastic forward killer ball on him. And he scores the spectacular. He makes things happen. He's got good vision, moves the ball quickly and makes things happen. And that's what I look for players in videos. When people say to me, what do you look for in a video? They all look good. I'm looking with defenders, it's different, but I'm looking for players that move with vision and move the ball quickly, can make things happen. And
can you see a scenario, Adrian and Steve, where this year, obviously being as Champions League football, Premier League, FA Cup, Carabao, you see a scenario where the likes of your Donnelly, Mikey Moore, I know Jay's gone out to Doncaster, and there's talk that another couple of the kids may end up at West Brom because of obviously the Ryan Mason connection now. But you think there's genuine contention for them to sort of be maybe not be fighting for a starting spot? You think they can get better minutes, especially in Mikey Moore's case? You think he'll better the minutes that he did this season?
I'll only think we'll see Mikey Moore. There's no point bringing Donnelly and the others in if they're going to sit on the bench all season. Right. And especially if we know there's going to be at least 3 or 4 more players coming in. right? So if you get Kyle Walker-Peters in, then you get in the midfielder, the winger Kudus, and say a striker. Or if you don't get the striker, you get a Xavi Simons instead or an Eze, right?
Mhm.
If we can get that, that'd be brilliant. But then you've got to think all them games. You've got to give these players game time. And I only see Mikey Moore getting the minutes out of all of them, to be honest with you. We'll have the 2 10s. You're still
Even
going to
with
have
even with Tell coming in, Adrian.
yeah. You because you've got the 2 10s. You've got Odeberg can even play at a 10 as a push. You've got Bergvall. You've got to find somehow fit in Gray and Sarr. Listen, this is a good squad of players. It's underperformed. It's a good squad of players as it is, and it will improve if we bring in 3 other readies in.
Is this worth a shout? Beast of TH said I think we'll sign Harvey Elliott. Either of you, what's your thought? Steve, will come in. You come in once you finish your glug. Or what do you think about that? I think he's a because that would that tick a homegrown box?
I like Harvey Elliott, but I don't see it happening.
No.
I haven't heard anything to the likes of that. They're even kicking the tires on Harvey Elliott. But I will say that my problem with, like, I'll just say this: like, Donnelly has probably the best chance to make the first team just because of the numbers issue. Because right now they just have James Madison as the lone 10. Kulusevski is going to be a while back. But as of right now, there has to be at least some form of a deputy to James Madison at the very least, and that's where Jamie Donnelly is probably going to make this roster just because of the lack of depth at that position. My problem is with Mikey Moore. It's with Kudus in the door playing on the right side, and you also have Brennan Johnson. And the left side, you have Sonny Tell and Odebear and Yang Min Huck. On that left side, it's like, where is he going to get minutes? Because Odebear can play on both sides. So if you need a deputy to the deputy, you already have it in Odebear, right? So where is Mikey Moore going to grab minutes? Is it going to be in the Carabao Cup? It's going to be more of the same this year as it was last year. And the reality is, it's like this kid has to be playing. His development depends on the fact that he needs regular first team minutes, and it cannot be a situation where he's getting the occasional cup match, but he's rarely coming on the pitch in the Premier League. Maybe once every 2 months, 3 months. You can't do that to a dude like Mikey Moore. He has to be playing.
No, he'll get England games if the youth teams are playing. I don't know if England are playing any games as well. Yeah. And then you got to consider the fact, well, if they're going to bring him in, is he going to have to drop down and be given some under 21 games to keep him on?
But that's not going to help his development playing U21s.
No. And what we don't know is what the shape of the squad will be going into the season as of yet to warrant whether we do bring in academy players. I think Moore will be a part of the squad. We're going to get him to sign a contract in August. He's going to want to be.
I think he goes out on loan. I think he goes on loan this season.
Yeah, I think we keep him. With Donnelly, I think it depends on the fitness of Madison and Kulusevski and whether we're going to start the season with them, whether their pre-season is affected because they're still trying to get up to speed, get their fitness levels up after injury. I think that's an option. And then, I think Lancashire and Scarlett go out on loan again, and they're young enough to go out. Scarlett's 20. Yeah. Right.
I agree with this because I just don't think there's a path for Mikey.
Well, I think the only two that are going to get in are either Donnelly or
it's Donnelly. I think it's Donnelly. That's going to make this team. I just don't see where Mikey Moore's going to get the minutes because it's a numbers issue, and it's like, you have to have a set plan in place for him to actually get significant minutes.
Well, we've got Reading, Luton.
That's preseason.
Then we got Arsenal.
I'm talking about the regular season.
Play a K-League side and Newcastle. And we play Bayern Munich. There's 6 games without any games behind closed doors if we arrange a game behind closed doors.
But again, it's preseason. I wasn't referring to the preseason. I was referring to the regular season, right? It's just a numbers issue for me. And I happen to agree with Beast of the TH. I do believe that Lancashire and Moore go out on loan.
Fingers crossed no injuries preseason because that'll throw the cat among the pigeons.
I think Moore would be better set to go out on loan. I think Moore goes on loan.
I mean, Johnny M was saying on one of the other shows that he doesn't think Kula will be fit till a few months into the season. I mean, because it was his knee.
Yeah,
Don't know. I mean, like,
I was hearing November.
sorry.
I was hearing November for Kulusevski.
Yeah. So, which means, okay, we've got enough cover in midfield. We can't fit in all the midfielders we've got. Like you say, Maddison, if he ain't fit, you're looking at playing Odegaard there or even Mikey Moore in the 10. Mikey Moore can play left wing, right wing in the 10, right? Left midfield, right midfield. There's not an issue. I think the kid's going to be an absolute superstar. Is he ready to be given a lot more minutes this season? Well, the only way to find out is to give him a lot of pre-season games. Give him a lot of pre-season games.
If he if he has if he has an unreal preseason where it looks like he's better than Odegaard Hotel, 100%. I mean, if he earns it, he earns it. But I would probably think just for the amount of money that we paid for Matisse Tell and Wilson Odegaard to come in, I don't know how you guys feel, but I think that's the priority, right? The development of those two.
I like this comment by Aldo Artisan here because I've thought about this. There is a case to be said, even if we brought academy players and they didn't get game time, is to bring them in to January with the promise that if they don't get the time, because we'd have played the 8 Champions League games by then at least, and the League Cup, the beginning of January is in the FA Cup first week or whatever, or 10 days. There's a case for bringing academy players in for the first half of the season and then loan them out. According to how that first half has gone, then loan them out in January, just in case, so as we don't have the same injury crisis we had this year, right? And we've got plenty of cover. So, I like.
Well, we're coming up. Sorry, we're coming up on 2 hours, and Steve's got to hop off. So I just wanted to plug his channel one last time and just give him the chance to sign off. I appreciate your time again, Steve, this evening.
Yeah, for sure. I always enjoy these conversations because I really do like getting into the nuts and bolts of the numbers when it comes to certain positions and forecasting exactly what this first team is going to look like once the Premier League season inevitably kicks off. I just will say this finally that I do believe that the talent that's in place is good enough for this team to actually be a top 6 team. Is it good enough to crack the top 4? Not without some more reinforcements, but as is, it's a Europa League team. It's capable of continuing their European run. So I'm looking forward to the start of the preseason with Reading and Luton and getting a look at exactly how Thomas Frank is going to line this team up.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Steve. I really appreciate your time, mate. I know you've obviously got to hop off. Me and Adrian, we're going to wrap some stuff up here. We'll just let Adrian have a few final words, and then we'll say goodbye. Adrian,
have you finished with the chat? Doing all the chat?
I'm just going to round off with them. I thought you were going to say something there.
Well, no, I was just going to do the usual finish. Just thank everyone. We've got 111 of you watching us on various platforms, which is great. We really appreciate your support. Like I've said earlier. And for those of you watching on playback who've stuck with us this long, we hope it's been interesting. We know there hasn't been a lot going on, but I'm sure that will soon liven up next week. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, you can see the subscribe button in the bottom right-hand corner. We've been going a year, but obviously I started the Spurs Facebook group when the stadium opened in 1919. That's why it's got 14,500 members, because it's been going over 6 or 7 years or whatever. The YouTube, the page hasn't been going that long with 300 members because the videos go out on the page, and the XCOM one, that's not that old either, but I got 3,200 on there on Spurs Diehards. You can find it just under at Spurs Diehards on XCOM. Thank you for your comments as usual and your support, especially all those in the UK that staying up this late to watch us when you should be in the pub, really, in this weather. You should be getting lashed
with the cost of inflation these days, Adrian. A pint costs a little too much now, doesn't it?
I know. Drew moved to America and took up American citizenship, but I'm sure he remembers in the UK on a Friday night it's traditional to get drunk and talk bollocks. But instead, you've stayed with us here, right? Which is great, right? Really appreciate your support. especially the guys who come in the chat channel. We'd like to get more of you in the chat channel. We'd like to engage with you. Thanks for your comments, and thank you for your questions as well. And all I can do is just thank you all for your support, and please, your continued support is valued. We are a young group. We are growing steadily. No great rush. We'll get there. I'm sure we will in time. Yeah, and with that, back to you, Drew.
Yeah, well, nice one for that, Adrian. I just want to give a shout out to just the usual suspects in the chat. We had Milton in earlier, David, Nita, we had Graham. Big shout out to also Peter Cahias, I think. Which there we go. Because he gave away some memberships earlier on, and just thanks to everybody that just participated in allowing us to progress the conversation as well. We had Mike Vickers in as well towards the end. Spud, obviously, big up to you. And to anyone and everyone that I've missed, we will be back again.
We hope to see you this Sunday. Ian Meff will be hosting the show with me on Sunday. He hosts Sunday. So same time Sunday, 10 o'clock UK BST, yeah?
Yep, perfect. Same time Sunday, and we will see you next week. Let's all try to manifest a signing or two over the next few days. Hopefully Thomas Frank will get a chance to look at the squad. And come on, you Spurs. Well, looking forward to the come on, you Spurs. Looking forward to the next game. We'll see you next week, guys. Take care. Peace.
We'll